Get ready for the world's greatest Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. My name is Fergus, I'm your host. I don't have much of a voice left after yesterday. I'm joined by Dale, Peterborough Gooner, also joined by another voiceless man in Capo Dan, and my sidekick, Gooner Hilsey, who's got a hangover because he drank too much beer yesterday. We're going to look back at the Bournemouth game, but we're also going to look back at the Everton game. Two huge, momentous games in this season that Arsenal are having. Our game in hand, which meant that we went back to 5 points clear. And then the game yesterday that we all thought could have been a banana skin. And wow, who slipped up? And it wasn't us. Dale, how are you, mate?
Yeah, all good, all good. Yesterday wasn't good for the old heart rate, was it? But what that was.
Well, I got a reading of Trevor's heart rate. He's got one of these fancy watches, and he sent it through to me. And apparently, a normal heartbeat's at the top, and the bottom heartbeat was while the game was playing. That was Trevor's. Trevor, how are you, mate?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. Do you know what? I'm going to have to stop having 2 pints at games. So I think I'm going to cut it down to 1.5 pints because the 2 pints I had yesterday has battered me today. But do you know what? I couldn't care less. Could not care less. What a day we had. It was great being with you boys, and we'll talk about it all in a bit, I know, but how can you not be in a good mood today, lads?
We will do. Chan, funny enough, was in the Bank of Friendship with some of the other guys. We were only next door. We were in the Gunners pub yesterday, and we went to the Woodbine and a couple of others. Hello to everyone in the chat. Capo, how's the voice?
Yeah, so I might be on a bit of voice rest, I think, before Thursday. But yeah, I felt physically better, but mentally never better.
And have the tears dried up?
Don't know what you're on about, mate. He's, Fergus, when he has a couple of drinks and makes stuff up. Never mind.
Yeah, made things up. To be honest, I think it was those last 2 drinks in the Eaglet. I'm like Trevor. I'm a little bit delicate today. I shouldn't really have been drinking as much as I did, and I just went a little bit mad. Arnie was in the stadium yesterday. Arnie, when we get to the game, we'll probably chat with you, try to get you in comments and tell us what you thought about the game and stuff like that. So I'm glad you got over. Shame we didn't get to meet you around Block 5, Block 6, but Trevor was so drunk we just had to keep an eye on him really more than anything else. Before we go into that, though, let's look at the Everton game. It was the game in hand. And our lineup against Everton was Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Xhaka, Jorginho, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Trossard. So Eddie was dropped again. I believe he's got an ankle injury, but he was on the bench for that game. And Trossard started again. Dan, what did you make of the Everton game? I don't want to spend loads of time on the Everton game because, to be honest, it's so a few days ago that it almost doesn't feel as current.
That's good because, to be honest, I've pretty much forgotten about the Everton game now, so that's probably a good idea. No, to be fair, the Everton game, I heard a little bit of criticism from people saying we started slow and that we didn't have the best first half, but I didn't actually think that we were that bad. I felt it was more that Everton were up for the fight, and then as soon as we got ahead, they dropped off just because they haven't got the quality that we've got.
Yeah, I had 3 Danish Gooners in tow, and yourself as well. They'd been in the pub in London most of the day. I was driving, so I wasn't drinking. So yeah, it was quite eventful when we got there. But I did talk to you about that, and I did say that I thought that Everton did well to manage us and police us, and made that first 30-35 minutes difficult. And then once we got that goal, I think we were much better. Trevor, thoughts on the opening period of the Everton game? Everton did give us a game, and we thought, Christ, could it happen again? What happened on the 4th of Feb? Take yourself off mute. Take yourself off mute.
Why do you keep muting me every time?
I don't touch it.
Much like what Dan said, though, it was. I didn't think we had that bad a first half. I just thought that Everton turned up and set their stall out to defend the goal with part of the bus, get 11 players behind the ball and see what they could do. The start reminded me a bit of the game up at Everton because I don't know if you remember, boys, but for the first 10 minutes of the game up at Everton, we looked promising, and we didn't score a goal early, and Everton got more and more confident and ended up beating us with a goal at the end. But that didn't happen, did it, at our place, with our fans behind the team and our lads that are playing on the home turf. It soon became apparent that once we got one, we were going to get a few, and it took a while, but once it came, that's exactly what happened. And they weren't in our league once we opened them up. And the more they tried to open the game up to get back into it, the more we made of the space. And in particular, I thought Odegaard, as the space is open, that boy covered everyone. He was absolutely superb.
I've got a video clip of Odegaard and that special tackle. We'll talk about it in a little while as well. Dale, thank you very much for sorting out the Danish Gooners with some. No, my cousin actually with some tickets. He was delighted, although he was an Everton fan, so I wasn't as delighted as the rest of us. But he really enjoyed bringing his son to experience the North Bank and seeing all the Block 5, Block 6 stuff. So he said, thanks very much. And I thank you as well. What did you make of the game? I know you couldn't be because it was midweek. You know, first 35 minutes, as Trev and Dan said, we struggled. But then Saka came in and scored a goal in like 35, I think it was 31 minutes, actually.
And what a goal it was.
Yes.
What a goal it was as well. It's, I mean, a lot gets said about him, but just when you think he can't get any better, he pulls out right out of the top drawer. And I thought it was an incredible finish. Not just the angle he was at, but to pick that tiny area, the top of that goal he had to aim at as well. Unbelievable. What a finish. Yeah, I mean, at the start of the game, I was comfortable. I didn't ever think we were going to lose that game. I expected a 3 or 4-0, which we spoke about before. And it just so happened. I just thought it was one of those games where the players had it in their heads where we could not lose that game. We got embarrassed at Everton. It could have and should have been more. And that was a must-win game for more than the title race is being concerned.
Dan, we talked in the stadium and while watching the game, you know, about 20 minutes in, I was going, we need a goal. 26 minutes in, I'm looking at the clock and going, we needed a goal 6 minutes ago. I went to like 30 minutes and you could hear the crowds just starting. At the beginning of the game, great. Everybody, exactly as Dale said, everyone was up for it. The players were up for it. We wanted a revenge. We wanted to put right what went wrong at Goodison. But, you know, Saka in his wrong leg as well. You know, how good was it?
And not his first either, to be honest. You know, the sign of a top striker or a top player is someone that can do it consistently. And we know the lad's got talent and he'll pull things out of the bag, but he started to do that now week in, week out. And that's what, for me, is going to go on to make him a world-class player. But yeah, he's had a very, very similar finish away at Leeds at the beginning of the season. So he not only can he finish on his left, he can finish very, very good on his right foot as well.
Trevor, a very rare thing that you're seeing here. It's water on the podcast. You know, that's very, very rare. I can tell you how heavy it was yesterday. Trev, Martinelli was at first adjudged to be offside. Now, from the stadium and the quick still I saw behind me on the screen, I still thought, I'm glad I'd spoken to you and some other things, I still thought Martinelli, just before half-time, had scored the second goal, but then it was going to be justifiably ruled offside, but it was ruled onside. Explain to me. I don't have any video footage.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was almost instantly, I could see that Martinelli was behind the ball. And if he's behind the ball, he can't be offside, Fergus. And it just goes to show what a position we've been in with VAR recently. That the first thing that came into my head was, please, VAR official, realise that he's behind the ball and put the line off the ball, not off of Martinelli, you know. Unfortunately, he did his job, did it well, and the goal stood as it should have done. Martinelli, it was tight, but Martinelli couldn't be offside because he was behind the ball. And it was great to see our two boys pick the defence like that, pick it off their toes and score. Just go back to Saka's finish, what Dale said, what brilliant finish from Saka. Brilliant finish. But you've got to remember that if Jordan Pickford had some arms, he might have saved it, but he ain't got any arms, has he? So he was never going to save in a million years.
Sausage hands. I can't stand him. Honestly, I don't know why he's England's number one. He's clearly not good enough. Second half then, Dan, we came out again, like we spoke at halftime and we said that how poor Everton were, first of all, but they were managing Arsenal. People were moaning that Arsenal weren't great, but I, like you, didn't think we weren't bad. We were just finding it difficult to find the spaces and break them down. There were a big back four and they just packed the box area. But in the second half, we came out with a bit more vigour and a bit more about us, and we got 2 more goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're 2 up, confidence goes throughout the squad, and you can see the confidence growing in that team. by when they get on the ball and the crowd cheering behind them. It makes a big, big difference. And also you can see the confidence drain out of a team like Everton that are struggling at the bottom. And I think that goes to show. But our quality shone through in that game, and we had some very, very good phases of play as well. And that could have easily been more than 4.
Yeah, it could easily have been more than 4. So we got Odegaard for the 3-0, I think it was, and Martinelli for the 4-0. Before we talk about the 4th goal, I'd like to talk about this. Dale and Trev, you will have seen it on telly, and I want to see what your reaction was. And then I'm going to talk to me and Dan about seeing it down the pitch in front of us. It's Odegaard with this dummy slide tackle on Iwobi. Dale, how good is he?
At first, when I see that, I just thought on the legitimate stream that I may or may not have been watching as well, may I add.
Oh yeah, of course you couldn't have watched it because it wasn't on telly.
No, of course not. No, I was just eye in the sky and all that.
Yeah.
But no, in relation to when I first see it, I went, "What a tackle that is!" And then when I see it again in the replay, I was like, "Actually, that's not a tackle. That's an incredible piece of skill." And I genuinely, if that was a lot of people, I'd have gone, "You know what? He's not meant that." But he meant that. He knew exactly what he was doing. And we have got one hell of a Rolls Royce in our hands there. People talk about Saka, Martinelli, and they know how good Odegaard is. But when you look at the criticism he's been getting recently, puzzles me. Absolutely puzzles me. But yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him. Really can't.
Trevor, the skill in the tackle slide, and also just picking up on what Dale said. Crystal Palace away, first game of the season, people were moaning about him. I've heard it several times, people moaning about him in different away games, of people who should know better, especially among the away contingency. You would like to think they're a bit more knowledgeable.
I've seen sliding tackles and I've seen dummies, but I've never seen a sliding dummy. It was exactly what it was. He just slid, dummied. He knew what he was doing, Dale. You're exactly right, because he jumped straight up on his feet. And went to the ball. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it was wonderful to see. And I just think that in the second half against Everton, I think that our young lads, and don't forget that they're all early 20s, all early 20s up there, or most of them, excuse me, they just started to have fun. They knew they were the better side, right? And the Arsenal lads actually played the second half against Everton like they were just having fun, knockabout. They just played Everton off the park. It was a pleasure to see. It was great. I mean, obviously, I didn't see it live. I watched the recording that Dal sent me. But to be honest, it was a wonderful second half performance. It was like putting a Rolls Royce in cruise control and just watching them go. Them kids. It was a wonderful second half of football.
Capo, we saw it. What I saw was it was the referee looking, and I think the referee was thinking, did he foul him? What the hell did he just do? And I think the referee was confused of what he was going to do, whether he was going to blow up and give a foul for Iwobi who fell down like a sack of, but it was just unreal. I just saw the spray of water, him go down, him get back up again, and point at the ball, and he run towards it. It's just,
wait a minute.
Great bit of skill.
Wait a minute, because I feel for Iwobi there. Don't you feel for Iwobi, boys? Because he was absolutely sold one, wasn't he? He was absolutely sold one. Taxi for Iwobi. It was hilarious. Well, it wasn't hilarious. We're not seeing the sliding tackle there, Ferg. We're only seeing the bit.
You are. You get to see. There, he slid in just before there, mate.
Oh, right.
And listen, if I put any more of it up, they'll end up YouTube and Facebook will ban me again.
Sorry, Dan, I'll cut you off there, mate. I do apologise, but I do feel sorry for Iwobi. Because
I've totally forgot what I've got to say now, Trev, so you've absolutely ruined my comment.
Sorry.
No, I'm joking.
Just drop the C-bomb and make us still feel better.
Listen, Dan, moving on then to the last goal in the game, Martinelli. Eddie came on. He had 2 or 3 opportunities, shot one straight at the keeper once, a few moans and groans, but he was putting a bright performance in. He was determined. He was playing in a slightly different role. I think you commented on, you and Trev, I think, both commented on, or we talked about it yesterday. Tierney came on and played it more in a Zinchenko style role rather than an out-and-out left back or winger. Martin Eddie Nketiah was playing more that sort of role and pushing Martin. Come on, I'll talk to you. You talk away to give that assist.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest criticisms we've had of Eddie is that he plays in the 6-yard box and then doesn't move around outside the box. And he just seemed to be picking up the ball, willing to run with the ball, willing to run in the channel and create spaces. And, you see from that assist that he got the running that he can make off the ball and away from the 6-yard box and the sort of the effect it can have on the team. So I think he's still going to get criticised because he, for his miss that he had. And I think he does need to be burying chances a bit better. But we've seen it with the likes of Jesus when he plays up top that necessarily you don't have to score goals all the time to have a really big effect on that team. And it's more about what you do running off the ball and helping the team. So if he can bring that, then he's, he'll step his game up another level.
And his assist for Martinelli, and Martinelli took the goal well, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not often we've seen Eddie and Martinelli link up, as we've sort of highlighted before. So that's another positive that they are linking up and that they can hopefully play together, because we will need to have players that come in and out of the squad over the next few games and different combinations.
Del, final word on the Everton game. Bear in mind, I'm asking him lots of questions down there because his voice is absolutely screwed.
Well, he's up there to me. Oh no,
yeah.
But no, I just think something we briefly talked about yesterday as well. When was the last time we had wingers, because they are wingers, right? Regardless of what we're saying, 2 wingers, one on each side, both getting double digits in a season, and we've still got a long way to go in this season as well. So it's incredible to see the goals not just coming from there, but they're coming from everywhere. If you think about it, we haven't had a striker scoring goals this season. Yeah, of course, Jesus hit the ground running to start with, but the goals are coming from everywhere. And I think that performance on Wednesday was a massive testament to the team, to be fair.
It was. And we talk about Everton being very poor, but if you look at the stats here, their stats were actually better than Leicester's, which is really, really unusual. We had both had 5 shots on target. We had 10 off target and they had 3. We dominate possession. Trev, how poor did you think Everton were? Are they going down? We've seen what they had a 2-2 draw against Forest today.
Everton are not a very good side. That's obvious to see, Fergus. But I honestly think that's the way we persevered after the first half an hour of the game against them showed that we are a really good side. We have come on in leaps and bounds, because I think I said earlier in the year, our young lads we're top of the league, and our young lads are going to come up against teams like Everton that come and play us with no intention of trying to win a game, right? They know that how good we are. They know how much we can break them down. So they come with a set plan. And I said at the start, earlier in the season, we've got to learn how to persevere our young lads and break those kind of defences down. And I thought that's exactly what we did against Everton. Even in some way, you could say we might have come of age against that kind of defence, because we persevered. And when we broke them down, they made the spaces. And I took a little bit from what Dal just said just now. With no target centre forward, and we haven't got a target centre forward. Our game is all about making spaces, right? Making spaces and moving into those spaces and scoring goals. And we've done it really well against Everton. We did it really well yesterday without having a bit of luck. And I know we're going to move on to that, so we'll leave that for now. But we made Everton make space. Everton weren't going to give us any space, but we made Everton give us that space. And once we got the space, well, you saw the second half performance. It was just
absolutely. It finished 4-0. As I said, goals from Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, and Martinelli with a second. The old scoreboard looks great. I like to take the picture of the scoreboard at the end of the game, and I've got a little bit of a story on that one as well. So took the Luke, which is one of my neighbours, and the Danish boys back. And they had to have a kebab, didn't they? So they end up having a kebab in my kitchen and drinking some beer late into the evening, and back up again at 4:30 in the morning to fly back to Denmark. Yesterday, we met up. I met you down in King's Cross as you came in from up north, Trev, and we had a couple of beers, and then we moved up towards Blackstock Road where we met Del and his young boy. Is Oliver, isn't it, young boy, Del?
Yeah, just on that note, massive thank you from me, guys. Honestly, it's like bringing a young lad to the football's a bit, it's not nervy at all, but obviously you've got to keep one eye on him at all times. So a massive thank you to all you boys, really, for making him feel so welcome. Apart from Trev, that is, he cost me nearly 100 quid. But other than that,
What, you mean all of this?
Yeah, not just that, yeah, but you've also got that top, yeah, so the top, and then you got the prime, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, cheers, Trev. Appreciate that, mate.
You're welcome, Dale. And by the way, Dale, he's a lovely, lovely lad. You should be proud of him, mate. He more than held his own with banter, and he was as polite as they come. So great lad, mate. Be proud of him.
And he hasn't got his Xbox for 6 weeks now because he spoke for too long.
I've got to stop it here, boys, because Fergus, right, did the biggest stitch up against me, right? Yes.
Please tell me you got that photo.
That you will ever see, right? We goes into the Wetherspoons in Pancras Station, and as normal, I go to the bar to buy the first pint, right? But I'm hungry, so Fergus goes and gets the table, comes back, says to me, "We're on table 28." So I said, "Brilliant, Fergus." He went back. He sat with two lads, right? And Fergus says to me, "I'm sat with two Leeds fans. They're
Northern.
Game. I've come to watch. I've talked to these two Leeds fans. They've come to watch a Chelsea game." So I goes over to the table, cocky old fella, puts the beers down, talking to him, and I said, "I'll tell you what, boys. I hope you lot win today because I hate Chelsea. I hate Chelsea with a vengeance." And they both looked me in the eye and said, "We are Chelsea fans." It stitched me up. He told me they were Leeds fans, right? How I didn't get my head kicked in, I do not know. Vicious Fergus.
I think they probably felt sorry for you because you were like old and you looked like a gnome. All you needed was a fishing rod, wasn't it? Really, that's all you needed was a fishing rod.
It's called
you've all seen it on
the young ones, Fergus.
Yeah, right. Okay. So listen, we're going to look at the Bournemouth game now, which is the one that we're all really recovering from yesterday. The lineups were Tomiyasu came in. There was 3 changes actually, which was unusual. One you would have expected. Partey in for Jorginho. Partey being back fit again, but you had Tomiyasu in for Ben White and Vieira in for Xhaka. It was the first game that Xhaka hasn't started all this season. And I think it's the first time since 1986 against Villa, since there hasn't been a player that has in the starting lineup that hasn't been influenced or played under Arsene Wenger. So definitely a momentous day of us moving on to the next generation under Mikel Arteta. The lineup was Ramsdale in goal, Tomiyasu, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Odegaard, Vieira, Saka, Martinelli and Trossard. Dan, thoughts on the lineup?
Nothing wrong with it for me. I mean, we need to be able to use a squad and rotate. We've got some big games coming up. We're going to play midweek again. So he only made 3 changes. I mean, people going on like he's changed sort of 7 or 8 players in the squad for this game. One of them he's brought in probably our best midfielder in Thomas Partey. He's rotated a right back for someone that before Ben White drifted out to right back was doing a fantastic job and everyone was sort of, applauding him week in, week out. And then, Vieira that I think needs to come in and probably settle a bit more. But I think Xhaka needs a rest and he'll probably play midweek.
Trev, what did you make of the lineup? We talked about he's really got a fixed 11 that he likes to start with, and if it's especially over the last probably 5 or 6 games, it's been the same fixed 11. If available, is that 11 that go out on the pitch? And to make 3 changes, which is more changes than Mikel Arteta has ever made, seemed a lot. Were you happy with Tomiyasu, Vieira, and Partey coming in?
Yeah, I was surprised, but I wasn't unhappy, Fergus. So it was much just as Dan said. We've got the squad. We've got a few bits. We've got a bit of squad depth now, so why not use? I was surprised though, but then before the game started and I saw the team, without knowing what was coming, I thought to myself, well, if you're going to make a change, if you're going to give Vieira a bit of time, and if you're going to keep Tomiyasu match fit, and you want to give Xhaka a bit of a rest, this is probably the game to do it. Bournemouth ain't a lot, are they? Let's make the changes. And of course, we all know what happened next. So, yeah, but before the game, I wasn't unhappy at all, mate.
Dale, we all spoke again before the game and we said, I was more confident and less nervous going into this game than I was the Everton game. I just had a feeling about Everton and Sean Dyche and everything else. I didn't think Bournemouth had anything to offer. And then we go in the first 10 seconds, they're 1-0 up.
Yeah, well, literally, I had a cup of Bovril, I think it was, in my hand. And I turned around, we just finished North London Forever, put me Bovril down, turned around with 1-0 down. I said, what has happened there? Surely that's something ain't quite right there. But no, it was, I mean, the lineup, I thought if there was any game to do it, I think I would be surprised if there was anybody in that club who didn't think that was a game to do it. We all spoke about it beforehand. I was a little bit surprised about Xhaka not being there, but like you say, it was if there was a game to do, that was it. But yeah, that goal going down 10 seconds. But I think the strange thing about that, right, though, at 1-0 down, I still felt comfortable we were going to win that game. If I could have got a signal in the stadium, I'd have put a bet on there to get better odds and gone, you know what, Arsenal to win this all day long. And I still felt comfortable we were going to win that. Not at any point at 1-0 down did I think we weren't going to win it.
There's a little bit of controversy, Dan, about this because, okay, I haven't got the video footage, but at kickoff, when the Bournemouth players actually kick the ball, there's 3 of these players that are already across the halfway line and in the opposing side. So technically speaking, they are offside when the ball, and it's a foul. It should be a retake at the start. I'm not looking for an excuse. I'm just saying, they're the rules. But did it bother you?
No, not really. I think it happens every single game. And I think if you're going to start micromanaging games to that extent, then I think it's too far. I don't believe that we don't do it and any other club doesn't do it. So the main thing with that goal was
micromanaging, like looking for a player who might have laid a hand on a glove of a keeper.
Or just, drawing some lines, for example. But we're not going into that. But yeah, I think in terms of that actual goal, no, I think it's more down to our defending. And I think we're nitpicking if we're going to start saying that should be disallowed.
Okay, so we're 1-0 down, Trev. 22 minutes in, Trossard goes down. He said he felt something pulling his groin, is what I've read on the internet. And he's added again. We bring on Smith Rowe. Were you pleased to see Smith Rowe come on? I know what happens later, but were you pleased to see him go on?
Yeah, firstly, I was sad to see Trossard go off because I think he's put a totally different perspective on our game since he's come into the side. But obviously, we're over the moon to see Smith Rowe back on. The young fellas struggle with injuries, so we need him to get as much game time as possible. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong and nothing for the lad to be embarrassed about what happened later on, Fergus. Nothing at all. He's not match fit. He's not played much football at all. He was on the pitch early in the game as a substitute, and I think we've probably got about 50 minutes out of him, which is totally acceptable. Totally acceptable.
Yeah, to be honest, if you were going to bring him on, you would probably brought him on with 20 minutes or 30 minutes to go in the second half.
Yes.
So yeah, and we'll talk about that substitution because that substitution did really change the game. So the first half petered out, and there wasn't really much to be said of the first half. The highlight of halftime was Trevor bought beers. It was like Jesus. It was like Christmas. There was bunting. There was everything. It was like I was waiting for Andy Peters to come in from ITV or something like that. That's what I was waiting for, like a big announcement. But yeah, no, Trevor bought beers at halftime. We had a bit of a chat. We got back in for the second half. The second half started a bit like the first half. We didn't seem to get back into the game as quickly as we did against Everton. And through a set piece on the 57th minute, Stevens comes in from a corner and he loses everybody, Dale. And he scores a goal to 2-0 up, and we're thinking, oh Christ, is this a proper banana skin?
At that point there, that's when I started going, okay, maybe we're not going to, this ain't going to be as easy as I thought it was. I think that highlights them playing to their strengths. One of the things what frustrated me a little bit about the game, if I had to nitpick, don't get me wrong, incredible result, incredible day. But if I had to nitpick, we kept pumping the ball into the box. We had no height up there at all. They played to their strengths. They kept trying to pump it in, like with that, for example, and that's where they were always going to be a threat. I think. Yes, it was a little bit slack at the back there. I think it was Partey was the man who wasn't following his man, but then obviously we know he made up for that later on. But when you look at the numbers, we had 17 corners, and I don't think we threatened from one of those corners being pumped into the box, which it surprised me a little bit, but. Yeah, no, it was a bit of a shock to the system. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And when I got my signal back on WhatsApp, the amount of messages I had come through saying about the I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, about Bournemouth going 2-0 up, yeah, and I was just like,
Yeah. It's just the abuse you get. To be honest, I was thinking about Christ. What if I go back to the pub, my local pub, and then I checked on the scores and Spurs were losing and West Ham were losing. I thought, well, okay, it's not so bad. At least if we can get back to sort of draw or something like that, I can top a live with it. Dan, so we're 2-0 down. And the substitution is made. What you guys don't know, there's a private chat on here. And Trevor's got the ump. Trevor's got the ump because I called him out for buying a beer. It's a rare thing, very, very rare. I did call him out. And he said in the chat, when you bring me back in, I'm going to have a right dig at you. And I said, you're not coming back in.
Stop. Listen, we can't move on until we talk about these buying beers. In fairness to you and Dan drive me to distraction because, and actually you did it yesterday, Dale, as well. You dive in the bar and I don't get a look in. So I did manage to buy a couple of rounds yesterday. That's why I shot down early at half time and got some beers in because, all right, you don't want anybody thinking that you never buy a beer, do you? You don't want anybody thinking behind your back, oh God, he never buys a beer. Well, I do buy beers. I just don't get a chance as often as I'd like. But I wouldn't want you to think I never buy beers. I do spend my money, Fergus. And
big shout out to Fergus, actually. Before I even got to the pub yesterday, he rang me and gone, oh, I just think about you. What do you want? I was like, it's incredible. I could get used to this.
It's all right. It's all right. We're organised. We're organised. So we're 2-0 down, Dan. And 62 minutes in, Thomas Partey comes on, and that was a change in the momentum. And you can see the focus on Thomas Partey. He goes into the back and it picks up the ball and brings it back to the restart.
Completely brushing over something there, Fergus. I'm not going to let you miss it out. First half, 1-0 up. Ramsdale's fantastic save, 1-on-1. And he was criticised quite a few times, I think, for a few sort of dodgy performances in the last few games. But since then, his save he made at Villa, I think a couple of saves he made at Everton, and also again yesterday. I think he's in a really good run of form, and he's made some fantastic saves to keep us in the game. And I think not only him, but players like Gabriel and Saliba have just looked a lot more solid. I think Gabriel's been outstanding as well. So, they kept us in it at times when Bournemouth didn't do a lot, but when they did break forward, were dangerous. And I think we dealt with it well. And when they did get through us, Ramsdale was amazing.
And Partey restarting the game.
Yeah, I mean Partey, he seems to get goals at big times, doesn't he? And it wasn't quite the long range sort of driver that he had at Spurs, but he gets goals at big times, and it was key then because I think if we needed to get a goal early with enough time to come back, but overall, you know what, the game that we played at Everton and the game we played at Bournemouth, I feel like they were very, very similar, but with very different outcomes in terms of the game, because we controlled both games. I think played very, very similar in how we controlled the game, how we attacked. But when a team like Bournemouth get an early goal, it just gives them such a lift, and it gives them something to hold on to. And you can see them fighting like they are. They're fighting for their lives to stay in the Prem. And, all credit to us for clawing it back.
One thing I forgot to mention as well was Tomiyasu was substituted Trev at half time. A bold move by the manager to take him off. The player has come back from injury, a long term off injury. He's come back. He's had some good games. He's had some not so good games, and he wasn't having a great one. He wasn't having a bad game, but he wasn't having a great game against Bournemouth, was he?
No, he wasn't. He didn't have his best game at all, Fergus. And I can just cover that off by saying, I can have my own faults, but who am I to question Mikel Arteta with what Mikel Arteta's doing? As far as I'm concerned, if Mikel Arteta decides Tomiyasu's off, then he's off, and that does for me. But he weren't having the best of games, and he has been injured, so maybe 45 minutes was enough. Who knows, But no, I wasn't unhappy with the substitution at all. What I didn't get an input to was that I did think that for Bournemouth's second goal, I did think, I hate saying this, but I thought we were at fault. I thought our marking was really poor. The first goal I'll put down to us not being awake, and that won't happen again because we'll learn from that. But the second goal was a poor one to give away. He was on his own, and we're not normally that bad in defence from set pieces. But no, going back to what you said, Fergus, no problem with the substitutions at all. No problem with Tomiyasu going off. Absolutely no problem with Smith Rowe coming on and going off. I thought it was a great move. And then I thought that Vieira had a good few minutes, and Tommy Ashes thought, right, time for Xhaka now. And so I've got no problem with any of the substitutions, mate.
Yeah, there was other people talking about Vieira and said he had a poor game. I watched him in the first half. Again, I didn't think he had an awful game. And I thought at some points before he was taken off, especially in the second half, he improved. He was better. He made some really, really important passes and interceptions.
I agree. In block 8, where I sit, there was mixed opinion around me. I had some people saying he was poor, some people saying he was giving the ball away too much, some people saying it was a good appearance. For me, when he doesn't play as much football with those guys as what he'd like to, I thought he did all right. Yes, he gave the ball away a couple of times, but people speak about him quite highly internally within the club. You see Arteta, you can see the bond he's built with Gabby Martinelli. He's clearly well thought of within the club, and I can't fault him. I mean, who doesn't make mistakes in games, right? I mean, as we mentioned before, we fell asleep for their second goal. Partey made an error. Do we pick on Partey? No, of course we don't. We move on, and I think we do the same with Vieira as well. I think the more game time he gets, the more the better he'll become. And you need to be playing 45, 50 minutes here and there for it if you're not in a starting team.
I think it's a bit of a scapegoat now. When we're not winning, they have to pick someone to blame. And I don't think we were playing poorly at all. But not most, I'd say very few. I think there's a lot of fans in there that do get behind the team, but there are a number of fans in the ground at times that just want someone to complain about.
Agreed.
And 2-1 back. We're back in the game at 2-1. Ben White, first of all, the manager makes a substitution. He takes Smith Rowe off and brings Reece Nelson on. And it was quite ruthless, really, of Arteta. It was all about getting the result and impacting on the game. You could see, as we said earlier, Smith Rowe was probably tiring in the game. It was quite an intense game. We were putting all the pressure on all the time. Do you have an issue with that, Dan? Were you pleased that he was taken off? I didn't have it. I don't think Smith Rowe had an issue either. Do you?
I'd go as far as saying not just that I don't have an issue with it. I think he deserves praise because he's made some bold decisions as manager. And he, again, is another person that's had so many people complain about the subs that he makes or his tactics. And, what he did worked at the end of the day. I think he did what was best for the team, not just on an individual basis. It would have been quite easy to say I'm not hooking at Tommy Asset at half time because it might dent his confidence, or the same with Smith Rowe. But he did what we needed as a team to get us the win. So I think that win is not just down to the players on the pitch, but down to Mikel as well.
The second substitution he made at half time was Ben White. Ben White came on and scored his first goal for the Arsenal. Personally, when I saw it from the angle I was at, I thought the keeper had got a good hand to it. And then the ref's watch went off, and it was proven that it was goal line technology, and it was well over. Have you seen any images of it?
It was well over the line. The full ball was clearly, well over. I mean, I'll be the first to say when it's one of those moments. Yeah, there you go. Look, well, I'll be the first to say when I thought he'd saved it as well. I sit directly behind the goal, almost level with the crossbar, and I put my head in my hands and turned round, and I was like, oh, and the next thing I know, everyone's cheering around me. I'm like, again, there's just another massive moment in the game I missed, and I genuinely thought it was a save, but it just goes to show technology can work, right? We're quick to criticise it when it doesn't, and like VAR, for example, I dread to think how many times we spoke about that. But when it comes to that goal line technology, it did exactly what it needed to do. And if anyone deserves a goal in that team for what they've put in this season, it's probably Ben White.
Yeah, he's been hugely improved. I was so impressed with him at Villa away, just watching him play. Well, and lots of games with Villa away in particular, and I thought it was really good on that one. Hello to Ben in the chat. I hope your voice is as bad as mine and Dan's, because you were down the bottom end with the Ashburton Army singing away, I suppose. The remaining 20 minutes were quite tense. Trev, had you come to resign yourself to the fact that we're only going to walk away from a point, and it was 2 points dropped, and we start looking like, what does that do to us, our lead? Oh, that brings us down to a 2-point gap rather than a 5-point gap, or a 3-point gap rather than a 5-point gap. Were you starting to resign yourself to it was going to be 2-2?
No, honestly, not at all. By the way, Dad, I did exactly the same as you. I thought brilliant save by the keeper. Turned round to Kurz, looked up, we've got a goal. But no, Fergus. If I'm honest, as it came to the very last bit of the game, I was thinking I think it's gonna be 2-2. But I still had hope in me because we were so creative. We were so on top. We were moving the ball around so well that you know another chance is going to come. You know, you just think one more chance, and then of course they've shot themselves in the foot because one of their players has gone down in the 6 minutes of injury time, and that's what everyone's saying today. It was scored in the 7th minute of injury time. Well, of course it was, because that player was down for just under a minute, so it had to go into the 7th minute of injury time. And you just when it went out for, I thought the game was going to end just before the corner because the ball was upfield, and I thought, well, that's it now, it's going to blow. But he didn't. He let it go on again, and it went out for the corner. And then you're thinking, right, this really is it now. This really is it now. And you've got hope, but possibly no expectation, because it's one of those afternoons where you're just watching our team knock at the door, and we're not having any luck. And of course, then what happens, and we're all in a mess. You know, we're all in a massive mess of happiness.
Absolutely. So I'll ask you other two guys as well. Did you have a feeling that was going to be it? Because we'll look at the goal, and I've got a couple of different angles and stuff, like, and we'll talk about the nuttiness that was in the stadium. Dale, did you think it was going to be just 0-0?
If there's one thing I've learned from this team is expect the unexpected. The everything they can give, they will give to that final whistle. Doesn't matter if it's the 94th minute, the 98th minute, the 100th minute. Normally, you can always see a few people leaving early, but I didn't see many. I saw a couple walking up and standing on the stairs. And I get that, right? I get it, but never leave. I mean, I remember that took me back this week to remember Danny Welbeck against Leicester, yeah. I think it was. It took me back to that. It was like literally the last touch of the game. And when I saw the name of the podcast, it's all about the 10 seconds. It's like 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out. It was, it was incredible. I've got to put my hands in the air as well and say, my boy's got a little bit of a bruise on his face because I went nuts, and I had his bag of prime, that big bag of prime I had on my back, like ready to walk out. I jumped up in the air and it flew over my shoulder and clocked him in the head. But I didn't know. And so I said, "Are you all right, son?" He was crying. I was like, "I'm emotional too, love." And he was like, "No, you hit me in the head with your bag." I thought he was crying because we'd scored the winner. But no, to come back to it, no, I wasn't surprised at all. I was hopeful, like I say, but not surprised.
Dan, as you know, as you're next to me, I always try and take a photograph about 90 minutes so we can put it on the Arsenal Fans Forum about the match discussion, and it was 2-2 at 90 minutes. We saw people walking out of the North Bank and walking up the stairs, and I remember you even saying at the time, and this is before we knew what was going to happen, why are they going? Why are they going? None of the Bournemouth fans were going. They were all staying.
It really does wind me up, and I know there's individual situations that are never, quite as straightforward as the sort of majority. But 3 o'clock kickoff, 2-2 in a crucial game. Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving that ground? Now, we've said late games, midweek, etc. People have to get trained, people have to do various things, and I understand that, but there's not a single part of me that would ever consider leaving that game at that minute when we were on the front foot pushing for a winner. Never would I leave it. And I don't believe any other real fan would do it. And it did really wind me up to see a lot of people leaving and going up the stairs. And even watching the game back, credit to be fair, the clock end in the North Bank, I think the majority, if not all of them, stayed. And the pictures was very, very full. But you could see in the East Stand the number of empty seats that started to appear the later the game went on. And do you know what? Karma for every single one of you that walked out and left that game early, not to see the winner and not to be able to experience it. And I'm so glad that those that left it didn't get to see it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get something up because following on Heath's comment, I'm trying to get something up that Trevor shared with us. I'll bring it up in a second.
So I'm just interested, Trev, what you think about people leaving early, whether you've got a different view, because obviously you do live a lot further away than sort of we do, and whether you've got a different view. You're on mute, Trev.
I'm mute then, Trev.
Oh, I'm glad I was on mute then because I proper swore at myself. I was in the aisle when the goal went in, Dan. Late evening games, I often have to leave a few minutes before the end because I've got to get that train out of King's Cross, especially if I've got work the following morning. I get home off of that at midnight. If I miss that one, I'll get home at about 1:30, 2 in the morning, and I'll get up at 6. So at my age, I can't do that. But no, I can't understand it really. I was moving towards the exit and I watched the game from there. I couldn't have left that yesterday. I can't see how anybody could leave that game that exciting. If we're 3 or 4, 5, 6-0 down, then do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. But no, it was too exciting. It was too mad. It was too crazy. It was just it's making the hair on the back of my neck stand on end now. There's this one Fergus is going to play now, but what I remember, if you get a chance, someone has put the Brazilian commentary on social media today, right?
I'll get it in a second. I think I've got it. I'll get it in a second.
Absolutely amazing. Do it, Ferg. Do it.
To Bournemouth, to Zinchenko on the left of the penalty area. His shot took a deflection and it whistled past the right-hand post, and this will be the last opportunity of the game because Odegaard has a corner over on the far side, swings it onto the edge of the 6-yard box. Bournemouth cleared away. Reece Nelson with a strike! Oh my word! What a hit that is from Reece Nelson on as a substitute for Arsenal, and he's just gone and won it. This place has gone berserk. Arsenal 3, Bournemouth 2. Mikel Arteta's down the touchline. There are fans all around me. Bournemouth players are down, and Arsenal have won it in the 97th minute.
That still gives me tingles, that does.
I can't talk.
Incredible.
I can't talk because you laughed at Dan last night, but when I watched it back this morning, I watched Match of the Day in full, and then I watched the Arsenal highlights a couple more times. Just makes me well up, and I think I've said this before, but it makes me well up, boys, because I don't think looking at 3 or 4 seasons ago when we were in the real bad period and you couldn't give away tickets for away games, nobody wanted them, only us hardcore, and I went to every game, and I was watching us thinking we're so bad at times, we're never gonna challenge again. Not in my lifetime are we going to ever recover from the mess that we were in. Honestly, I genuinely say that, boys. I'm not joking. I know I love a laugh, but I didn't think that I would see this again. And you have no idea how much this old man feels love for this club now. And Mikel Arteta, right? I heard it. I was watching Sky Sports News this morning, right? And Darren Lewis, the Mirror. The Mirror sports editor, I think he is, or chief sports reporter for the Mirror. He's brilliant on Sunday mornings, Darren Lewis. But the young lady that was on with him talking, she was good as well, but she said something along the lines of Arsenal stuck with Mikel Arteta when he was struggling, right? And I took offence to it. I took offence to it massively because Mikel Arteta has never struggled. He never struggled. He had a plan, and it's taken a long time because you can't polish a turd. Right? It takes time to change what we had, and that man has never struggled. That man has done a fantastic job. And I do care, but even if we lost every single game this season, I'd like to find Mikel Arteta and shake his hand and say, mate, thank you for the wonderful days we've had this year. The wonderful days we've had this year. I never thought we'd see him again. I'm going to stop waffling now because I'm getting emotional about it. I'm just over the moon with it.
Let me know if you can hear the audio. This is the Brazilian commentary.
This is brilliant.
Cobrança de escanteio. Bateu Odegaard, primeira trave. Deu sobra. Nelson dominou. Bateu. Golaço! Golaço! Virada! Virada! Gol! Nelson! No último instante!
God, I love our club.
As Steve, the photographer, says, it's my fucking club. I love this fucking club. I know we're not going to swear on here, but Alex has set a new standard, so,
Twice is too many, Fergus. Twice is once too many, son.
Yeah, I know. Listen, let's have a look at some of the stats, and then I'll show you some of the videos, and we'll talk about. Well, yeah, there's loads. So the stats were 79% versus 21% Arsenal. We had 9 shots on target versus their 4, 22 off target. So we had 31 shots on target, 17 corners, as Dale said before. So absolutely, again, dominated the game, but it's just hard to break down these teams with a low block. Finished 3-2. Goals from Partey, White, Nelson, Billing, and Sensei. Oh, I thought it was Stevens, actually, so I got to report that one wrong as well. But it was also just the coming together. When Nelson did score that goal on the pitch, I didn't see any of this. I've seen the stills afterwards because I actually don't really remember much of the goal because it was just like a tsunami of people. And I was down by the front. I was nearly on the pitch at one point. But players were on the pitch. The manager was on the pitch. Everybody was on the pitch. You can see there is just something happening in N5.
Can I just say as well, did you see Ben White stand in front of Neto and just scream right in his face?
Yeah, because he slapped him in the head. He slapped him in the head before he went to save the corner. Well, I think you should concentrate on saving the corner rather than slapping a defender in the head, don't you?
Yeah, and I think that was perfect karma because I've never seen a goalkeeper go down injured in the 50th minute with cramp. He seemed to be down for a lifetime. I don't know if you remember that. He was down for about 2 minutes with cramp. Keepers don't get cramp at the best of times. And the time wasting we're seeing at the minute against us shows that people are scared. People are scared to give us that extra minute. If they can steal 20 seconds every now and then, they'll do it. It was frustrating, but it was karma for me.
Leave it with me, pal.
Here we go. Let's watch this compilation.
Streets alone through this borough I call home. Upon the barren fields of Ireland, the stadiums of stone. Through the turnstiles at the Angels, see the homeless on the green. From the Cali to the cross and every shithole in between. Past the church, the mosque, the crack den, and the offie on the corner. See the brasses from the brothel that pretends to be a sauna. Watch the bedlam in the bookies, see the winners and the losers seeking solace from their sorrow. In the local battle cruisers, through the madness in the market where the faces turn to greet ya. Hello governor, how's your mother? Right son, be lucky geezer. Double buy a mash and liquor, a couple rolls in the hot chat. Watch retired gangsters bicker every day in office calf. The little fuckers causing trouble for the causes make you smile. You meet your buckers for a couple, forget your troubles for a while. From the fool to the penny, all the faces are the same. Cause the matter might be changing, but the people still remain. Move London forever, whatever the weather. These streets are our own, and my heart will leave you never. My blood will forever run through the storm. As I walk these streets alone through a king.
What do we say? Wow.
Can I just say one thing, right? The way this season's been and the way that whole stadium sings North London Forever, people always say we need our own anthem, and they compare it to "You'll Never Walk Alone." I've never heard "You Would Never Walk Alone" sang like we're singing them recently, and we don't pump stadium music in there either. That is all pure heart and emotion coming from that whole entire stadium. It's incredible to see.
Absolutely. Let me tell you a little something about "You'll Never Walk Alone," Dal. When we played there in the semi-final of the League Cup last season, before the game, they put "You'll Never Walk Alone" on. They pumped the volume on the tannoy up as loud as they could, and the Arsenal fans still sang over it. I've still got the clip on my phone. I've looked at it today. Our fans are amazing. Our fans, there's none better at the moment than the Arsenal fans.
Home or away.
Perfect support. Perfect support. You know, and Kev Campbell was on telly today, and he said players lift fans and the fans lift players, you know, but it starts with players showing a commitment, and by God, that commitment's been reciprocated by our fans this year, hasn't it? The fans know, you know. The fans know. When we were watching the likes of, I'm not going to name
whatever the weather, these streets are our own, and my heart will leave you never. My blood will forever run through the storm.
Go on then, Trev. Sorry, I really interrupted you, but I needed to play that little bit. Go on, you carry on saying.
fuck off now, you're rude.
Nearly. Go on, finish it off.
No, not interested. Get lost.
Oh, okay, he's got the Dan, it was nuts. We piled down the front. It just unreal. The Neil Diamond song was just ringing out. The Mikel Arteta song. Go on, Dan. I'm lost for words with it.
Honestly, there's a lot of it. I don't remember most of it because it just seems to. It went so quick from the minute that the ball went in the net to when we left the stadium. Just is a bit of a blur for me, if I'm totally honest. It's just everything as a kid you ever dream about to follow your team and see them win the league. You know, and if that's what happens this year, it's just it's a dream come true. And yeah, you know, for me, obviously, we've won league titles before, but for me to be in the stadium and be able to witness it sort of week in, week out is, it's all you ever want as a kid. But I would like to address one rumour that I cried at. I'd like to say that isn't true, and that's a complete fallacy made up by a little Irish leprechaun that's not actually true.
It is true. You were crying down by the on the side like that. You were like that, and another person who was crying who grabbed hold of me. I didn't know who it was at first. Potsy. So Potsy came running up. I came out of a crowd somewhere, and my head is down like this, and he just grabbed me, and he's just incessantly screaming and crying, mate, like this. I didn't know who it was. I'm like a cat's. His top that he had on, and I thought, and then I heard the voice and put the two and two together. Then I looked at him, and he messaged me today. He said, "I hardly slept last night." He was that excited. Trev, who would you be down as your man of the match?
Way, but I did kiss an Irishman, which is
you did, yeah,
big.
I've watched several times since. Yeah. Trev, man of the match. Who was your man of the match?
Oh God! Listen, it's become that much of an anthem now. You know our song. That I didn't watch the game, but I saw a bit of the lap of honour after the women won that cup today, and they were playing North London Forever as they did the lap of honour. That's how much it's become part of an anthem for our club. Man of the match yesterday, oh my Lord, we spoke about it earlier, didn't we? I thought Partey was blinding again, absolutely blinding, but then we spoke about it, and how can you not give it to Nelson? Someone's made a little montage on YouTube of his input to the game after he came on yesterday. And for a lad that could have well have been spitting his dummy out, what he did was amazing. Perfect. I'm going to give it to Nelson for me.
Dale?
I don't know. I can't look past Partey, I don't think. I think Partey was quality, but I think special. I was about to say that, Heath. I think Mikel Arteta deserves special credit for making substitutions potentially brutally, as we said earlier. But the substitutions did change the game.
Capo?
Yeah, it's so hard to pick one because I also think Erdegaard had a very good game again. But I think you can't overlook Nelson, as Trev said. He had such a big impact. He come on, he looked tidy. He looked like he was up for it. You know, not only the goal but the assist. He looked direct. He looked like he was causing them trouble. And if he can keep replicating that, you know, not just over a 15, 20-minute period, but over the course of the game and sort of game in, game out, there's absolutely no reason he couldn't push for a very big place in that squad. And a place is very much needed. So let's hope it continues for another local lad.
He's out of contract as well in the summer.
Yeah.
To be honest, I thought that the guy who would make it first would be Smith Rowe, but as you say, if Nelson pushes on like that, he could easily move Smith Rowe down the pecking order behind Nelson because that performance was just outstanding. And he's bulked up
again, though, isn't it? It's injuries with him, just like Smith Rowe. It's they've got to stay fit.
Nelson's a couple of years older than Smith Rowe, isn't he? You know, Smith Rowe came from nowhere. Nelson was in the year before, I think, so he's a year older. But watching him play like he did yesterday, you know, he's playing in a good side, Reece Nelson. Don't forget, when him and Maitland-Niles and Willock all broke into the first team, they were playing in a poor team. They had no leaders in their team, no one to guide them and no one to feed off. And so maybe we're now we've got this great side with these great players. Maybe we're going to, Reece Nelson's the last one that's left. Maybe we're going to see him come on now and be a part of that squad and have a big input, because seeing what I saw yesterday, I'm certainly of the mind that we now have another option. We now have another option in an area where we're quite blessed, you know, an area where we're quite blessed. I can't see why we can't consider us having another option now. So happy for the boy.
I think he's an option, Trev, but he's got to be more consistent because, you know, he has had a lot of chances as well. Europa League games, for example, you know, is he going to play on Thursday? And then if he does, is he going to take it? You know, he needs to be able to be there week in, week out, like the other lads have that have come in. Like Trossard, for example, who's just hit the ground running and just taking his chance. And Nelson needs to do the same. But obviously, you know, we all hope he does.
I agree. Me, I'm going to give it to Nelson simply because of coming on and making that impact. Ben White could easily be up there for making a similar impact. I agree with what you guys have all said on Partey. Partey did drive the game and control the game from the midfield, but to get that 97-minute winner, honestly, he's always going to deserve to be man of the match. To answer Chan's question in the chat, was Potsy allowing fans to sing what they wanted? Yeah, that was actually on the WhatsApp conversation we're having this morning. He said he's even starting to sing the Mikel Arteta song himself now. But rather than Champions League at the end, he's doing Premier League. But myself, Dan, and quite a few of us already around Block 5, Block 6, already sing onto the Premier League. Saka and Martinelli are top scorers. We're the only team with two players to reach double figures in the Premier League this campaign. That's got to be a good sign, Trev, hasn't it?
Yeah, we were speaking about that. Was it? Oh God, 2 or 3 seasons ago, Ferg, that we needed our fringe players, not our fringe players, our wide players and our attacking midfielders to have an input to give us a chance. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're having massive inputs. They're taking games on and scoring goals. And don't forget, we've got Martinelli as well. Martinelli and Saka, and then whoever plays around them. Saka just, I didn't think I could ever say it, but it just makes me smile more each week. Even when I thought that Saka had an average game for Saka yesterday, right? But an average game for Saka is still an absolute blinder, you know. He's that good, the lad. He really is that good. What a great position we're in.
One thing to say yesterday as well, if I may, we spoke about Arteta and the substitutes. I don't know if you guys are aware, but every single goal we scored was scored or assisted by one of the substitutes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't realise that. Yeah. Listen, Arteta is improving game on game on game. I think the players are listening and doing what he wanted. Dan mentioned earlier about people criticising some of his substitutions and some of his tactics. I was one of those that I did question sometimes the timing or some of the subs he made. For example, the 3 subs away at Man United. Was that really necessary? And some of the tactics we had last season when we were at Tottenham. But, you know, Christ, the guy has proven nearly everybody completely wrong. Dale, thanks very much for joining us. Peterborough Gooner, when are you down next? You're not at Fulham, so it'll be, what's the next home game?
Palace at home. It's Mother's Day though, isn't it? Oh, so yeah, I don't think I want to make that. However, I'm waiting for a message back from my boss tonight. Hopefully I'll be joining you boys in Lisbon.
Oh, good. Okay, so you're waiting on that one. So fine. I can't make Lisbon, but boys, Dan, Trev, you're in Lisbon Tuesday, Wednesday, right out until about Friday, isn't it?
Dan's out there a bit longer than me. Yeah, I go out Wednesday morning, come back Friday evening.
Yep, I'm Tuesday till Saturday. Just a quick one before we move on. Apparently, that was the first time we've come back from 2 goals down since February 2012. I was reading the other day.
Tottenham.
Oh wow.
Tottenham 5-2 was that game.
Right. And to be honest, that was one of the last. Somebody mentioned on a Facebook thread saying that was the best game ever at the Emirates yesterday. It was outstanding, but that 5-2 against Spurs was equally as outstanding and noisy and raucous and everything else. The 4-4 against Liverpool. We've had several good games there. It's been unreal, absolutely unreal. Guys, you have been watching Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Thank you both for all three of you for joining us, guys. And if Dale, if you end up going to have a great time in Lisbon, sing up for the Arsenal, drink a beer for me. Trev's buying, and Super Buck.
Last time I went live in bloody Portugal, I got myself in trouble, lost my room key, didn't I?
You did. That was hilarious. I've got it somewhere. We will have to actually put it back up again. But we are, on that note, we are going to do a podcast live from Lisbon. I don't know what state these two are going to be in, but it's 7:00 on Wednesday. We'll be going live again. I'll be sitting here. I think Alex will be in Denmark, and you two will be pissed. Basically, well, you'll be in Lisbon, but it won't matter where you are. You'll be pissed.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan will be carrying me. I might have 3 pints. I might
3. Oh no, you're not having 3.
You go steady, Trev.
I'm going to be.
We know what you're like on 2. Look at you dying today after 2.
What a joyous podcast this has been. I've been watching your faces, you three, right? And we just haven't stopped smiling. We just haven't stopped smiling, have we? From start to finish. This is what it's all about. This is why we go to football, isn't it? You know, I was going to mention something about the time wasting, Dale, but now is not the time for that. Now is not the time to divulge or diverge from what we've been talking about tonight. Our great club and how happy they're making us. Long may it go on. Long may it go on. 12 more cup finals, boys. 12 more cup finals. I can't have 12 more games like yesterday because I won't see the 12th game. I physically won't get there. But it's right on, isn't it? Every week it gets closer and they're not letting us down.
It's happening.
It's happening. It is happening for Mikel Arteta.
I love to win. Yeah. And when I see the trophy, I want the trophy.
We're seeing something really brilliant from Arsenal because even for them to be in the chat, for them to be in the talk, is mesmerising.
At the moment, I don't see anybody stopping Arsenal at the moment.
When was the Emirates last like this, week on week? Such noise! They are there and they mean to stay there. Bring on the big boys. Very tight for Arsenal, but absolutely brilliant! And touched in by Odegaard! Arsenal playing, and it's over Gabriel! Baka, there is a chance, and Arsenal are level. Pote! Looking for Jesus! distance, and he finds the bottom corner. Saka tries one. Arsenal's message to Manchester City: catch us if you can.
I didn't cry.
You did cry like a baby. Oh, I could cry.
Like a baby. Don't get me started.
Yeah, that's it. Guys, on that note, have a great time. Thanks for watching. And if you are watching our on YouTube, click on the like and the subscribe button. If you listen back on audio, go to YouTube and subscribe, and you'll get a notification. And you can see much more of the content with the video and stuff that we put up. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a lovely what's left of Sunday evening.
You've been listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons and Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too.